On the second day of NFL free agency, the Eagles free agency has started to pick up steam, as just recently in the past few hours, the Eagles have made multiple signings, all of which are very important. One of the moves that the Eagles just made is absolutely huge, and it has gigantic implications for what the Eagles are going to do moving forward throughout this offseason, as well as just how successful the Eagles free agency period is deemed. And we're going to talk all about that in this video, but I just ask you a favor: subscribe to the channel for more consistent Philadelphia Eagles content coming throughout the entire offseason. You're not going to want to miss it. Now, with that being said, let's get into the video. So after starting free agency pretty quiet, the Philadelphia Eagles have started to make moves and signings of their own, as just in the recent hours, the Philadelphia Eagles have gone out and signed 3 different players, and all of them will definitely make an impact for the Eagles in 2023, but one is clearly bigger than the other 2 moves. And this big piece of breaking news that just dropped is that the Philadelphia Eagles are re-signing star cornerback James Bradberry to a 3-year, $44 million deal with $20 million in guaranteed money. And this is phenomenal news. Obviously, the Eagles secondary was probably their biggest area in question going into this offseason. They just lost Marcus Epps to the Las Vegas Raiders. We don't know what's going to happen with Darius Slay or CJ Gardner-Johnson. And heading into the offseason, James Bradberry, we didn't know whether he would be re-signing with the team or not, and now obviously we get the news that he has agreed to a 3-year contract with the Eagles. And James Bradberry was great for the Eagles last season. He was acquired in May of 2022 by the Philadelphia Eagles after just being released by the New York Giants to save cap space, and he signed with the Eagles with a chip on his shoulder, and he wanted to revitalize his career and prove something with the Philadelphia Eagles after just being released by his former team where he had a lot of success. And he did just that in the 2022-23 NFL season, as he formed the best cornerback duo in the entire NFL alongside Darius Slay, and he had an incredible year. He wanted to revitalize his career, and he certainly did that. It could be argued that he had a career season in his first year with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he obviously played a huge role in the Eagles having the #1 ranked pass defense in all of football during the course of the 2022 NFL season. During the course of the season, James Bradberry had 44 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 1 pick six. That pick six coming versus the Detroit Lions in week 1, and it was his first pick as a Philadelphia Eagle and his first pick six in his entire career, and I think it set the tone for how he played for the rest of the season, and now obviously going into the future, he's going to be with the Eagles long term. But just last season, he also had one of the top grades in one-on-one pass coverage out of any corner in the entire league, and he also made second team All-Pro, which is very, very impressive stuff from James Bradberry. And I think what makes this even more impressive from James Bradberry is that he was thrown at a lot. Darius Slay was the team's #1 cornerback last year, and teams avoided throwing to his side. So a lot of the time, the opposing quarterback was picking on James Bradberry, hoping to exploit him and hoping to have success throwing at him. And James Bradberry held his own, and he had a lot of success in that #2 cornerback role where he was being thrown at a lot. Now, obviously, he didn't have to cover the other team's best receiver all the time because that's what Slay was there for, but he still was able to have a lot of success dominating as the Eagles' #2 corner. And obviously, having all the success he had, he earned himself a big contract. It seemed like he was going to go out and test free agency. He said during the course of the season that's what he was going to do, and that's exactly what I'm sure he did. And we heard teams like the Arizona Cardinals and the Las Vegas Raiders being linked to James Bradberry as the weeks progressed and we got deeper into the offseason and closer to free agency. And it seemed like, honestly, I thought it was a foregone conclusion that James Bradberry was going to be one of the free agents the Eagles were going to lose this offseason because obviously, the Eagles have a limited amount of cap space. They can't pay everybody on the defensive side of the ball. And I thought, unfortunately, James Bradberry was just going to cost them too much and they weren't going to be able to bring him back. But then just before the NFL's legal tampering period began on Monday, which was the unofficial start of NFL free agency, James Bradberry spoke to Josina Anderson of ESPN, and he basically said that he wanted to stay with the Eagles. He would love to play for them. He knows how successful they're going to be going down the road into the future, and he just was waiting to see how much they were willing to offer him as well as what the other teams were willing to offer him. And he said that the Eagles just asked him, should another team give him an offer, just call the Eagles and give them a chance to match that offer. And now obviously we've got to the point where I'm sure stuff like that went on behind the scenes that we just don't know about, and the Eagles probably matched whatever offer any other team gave him and signed James Bradberry to a 3-year, $44 million contract. And James Bradberry just spoke with Josina Anderson of ESPN once again to explain why he decided to re-sign with the Eagles, and he said, I went back because of the familiarity with the coaching staff, because I love the city and playing for the Eagles. They also gave me a deal around what I was looking for. Yes, there were other teams that offered me more, but I feel like Philly fit me the best. I don't know about you guys, but my respect for James Bradberry just went up with what he just said. He took a little bit less money to come back to a team that he enjoys playing for and a team that he knows is going to be in the mix when it comes to the playoffs and winning a Super Bowl. And it just seems like he's built for Philadelphia. He loves this city. He wants to be here, and now he's going to be here for the next 3 seasons. And now all that's left to do is for James Bradberry to come in and finish what he started with the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is to win a Super Bowl, and I'm super excited to have him back. But you can't just take this signing at face value, because obviously it's great to have James Bradberry back. Like I just said, he's a phenomenal player, but it also has huge implications for how the Eagles are going to handle the rest of the offseason, and more specifically the rest of their secondary moving forward. And what I mean specifically by that is this. Now with this news that the Eagles have re-signed James Bradberry, I think the Eagles are ultimately going to end up losing Darius Slay this offseason. Now, why do I think that? Well, we've just obviously recently been getting all this news regarding Darius Slay and his future with the Eagles. And, obviously he has an extremely large cap hit of $26 million in the 2023 NFL season. This is the last year of his deal, and the Eagles wanted to restructure his contract so that they could get some more cap space. But Darius Slay wanted a contract extension from the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm sure the Eagles, part of them wanted that as well, because Darius Slay has been such a good player in his time here with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's made a couple Pro Bowls, and he's been one of the best corners in the entire NFL. So I'm sure the Eagles wanted to try to work something out with him, but we've got to the point now where it doesn't seem like Slay and the Eagles have been able to agree on anything. Maybe the Eagles weren't willing to meet Darius Slay's asking price, so now the Eagles have granted Darius Slay permission to seek a trade. Now, obviously, we knew all this, but how does the James Bradberry news affect this? Well, if the Eagles weren't able to agree to terms on a new contract extension with Darius Slay before they went out and paid James Bradberry all this money, how are they going to do it now that they have even less money to work with? Darius Slay is obviously a great player, but the fact of the matter is he's 32, and at some point his play is going to start to decline, unfortunately, and I'm sure the Eagles don't want to pay him this gigantic contract for a bunch of years when they know this sad reality. So now that they've gone out and they've paid James Bradberry this huge contract, it's seeming more and more unlikely that Darius Slay will return to the Philadelphia Eagles in 2023. A recent report that supports this theory just came out from Todd Archer, as he says that the Eagles had talked to the Cowboys about a potential trade for Darius Slay. So I think it's looking more and more like Darius Slay could be on his way out of Philadelphia. But it seems like the Eagles kind of had to make a decision, and it seems like they chose Bradberry, who's a little bit younger. They signed him to this big extension, 3 more years, and sadly I think this might be the end of Darius Slay's time in Philadelphia. But despite potentially losing Slay, I still think getting Bradberry is a big win, and now I think the Eagles are on the verge of the perfect free agency period, as long as they're able to do one more thing. And of course, that one thing that I'm talking about is re-signing star safety CJ Gardner-Johnson. Obviously, he's one of the most sought-after free agents right now that's still left on the market, and this is the news that all Philadelphia Eagles fans have been waiting for, is to announce that CJ Gardner-Johnson is back with the team. Obviously, that has not happened yet, but if the Eagles can somehow find a way to get CJ Gardner-Johnson back, on top of bringing back James Bradberry, I think that would be the ultimate success. Obviously, CJ Gardner-Johnson, I've praised him multiple times on this channel. I think he's perfect for Philadelphia. He came into the Eagles last season on his first year with the new team, switched from cornerback to safety, had the best year of his entire career in a limited amount of games. He has that energy that Philadelphia loves. He's just perfect for this city, and he's starting to become a fan favorite, and he's one of the heartbeats of that Eagles defense along with guys like Brandon Graham, so bringing him back would just be incredible. And if you were to be able to sign him for the foreseeable future, as he's only 25 years old, it seems like CJ Gardner-Johnson is only going to get better from here, and it also seems like CJ Gardner-Johnson wants to return to Philadelphia as well, as we've talked about before on this channel. So I think if you're able to get a guy like CJ Gardner-Johnson back, maybe on a 3, 4, maybe even 5-year contract, in addition to having Bradberry for 3 more years, your secondary is in a good position. You still have 2 stars back there, along with Avonte Maddox, who's still there. And even if you do lose Darius Slay, you have only a couple holes to fill. Maybe you have Reed Blankenship at that other safety position after Marcus Epps left for the Raiders. And then you just have 1 hole to fill in that secondary, which is that opposite cornerback position to James Bradberry. And if the Eagles are able to pull this off, that, in my mind, is the ultimate win and a completely successful free agency period for the Birds. Now, real briefly here, I just want to talk about a couple other moves the Eagles have made. Number 1, the Eagles went out and they signed running back Rashaad Penny from the Seattle Seahawks. And I briefly talked about this in my last video, but just real quick here, I think this is a good move. I don't think it's an incredible move, but I think it's a good move because Rashaad Penny, in the time that he's been able to play, has been very, very good. He's been averaging 5.7 yards per carry throughout the course of his 5-year career with the Seahawks, and he's also a physical runner, and obviously being behind the Eagles' offensive line is only going to bode well for his potential success he can have here in Philadelphia, and I think he's going to be a good complement to Kenny Gainwell in the backfield. The problem with Rashaad Penny is that he's extremely injury prone. He's coming off a broken leg, I believe, last season. He's had a torn ACL before. He just really has not been able to stay healthy and stay on the field, but in the small sample size that he has played, he's been very, very good, and in that way, he's comparable to Miles Sanders, because Miles Sanders, for his first 3 years, couldn't seem to stay healthy, but when he was on the field, he was one of the best running backs in terms of yards per carry, and Rashaad Penny kind of fits that as well, except he hasn't had quite as much success as Miles was able to have early in his career as well. So hopefully Rashaad Penny can come in here with the Eagles and have a good amount of success, and the main thing is just stay healthy with him. So we'll see how this signing pans out. Face value, I think it's a good signing, but we'll see what happens. And then the other signing that the Eagles made is they re-signed the giant killer Boston Scott to a 1-year deal, and I think this is a good move. You know, it was a 1-year, $2 million contract, so it's not like they're paying him a huge amount of money. It's only a 1-year contract, so, you know, Boston Scott, in his time with the Eagles, has, you know, he's been a good backup running back. He's come in his limited opportunities and he's performed well. Obviously, you know, he has all the success against the Giants, but he's really made the most out of his NFL career so far, and he's taken advantage of all the opportunity he's been given. He's also a guy that's familiar with the Eagles offense, familiar with the Eagles system, everything that's going on. So it's just good to have a guy like that returning to the locker room, and he's going to be here now for this next season. And, you know, with these two signings, it seems like the Eagles running back room is starting to take shape for the 2023 NFL season with Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott, and now Rashaad Penny. Now the question is, are the Eagles comfortable with this moving forward? Because you don't have any one guy out of those three that's completely proven as a solid, you know, I don't want to say workhorse, but, you know, running back number one overall option. You don't have a guy that's proven in that role yet out of those three. So maybe the Eagles are really confident in Gainwell. Maybe they're really confident in Rashaad Penny that he can stay healthy. I don't know. I still think there's a potential for the Eagles to go out and make another move for a running back in free agency, maybe even in the draft, but we'll have to see how that all pans out. But overall, I'm super excited about all the signings that the Eagles made today, especially James Bradberry. That move was huge, and I cannot wait to see how the rest of free agency unfolds. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this video, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you want to watch more Philadelphia Eagles content, you can go watch this video right here. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.